All right, let's continue then to unpack this and get more reaction. We now cross to SABC News correspondent Alex Cadier in Brussels. Alex, thank you so much for your time. Well, these are shocking results, in France, Belgium and Germany. What does, the right-wing party's growth mean for the EU?
Well, it means that there's going to be a lot of negotiating, a lot of haggling over the next few days about who will be able to command a full majority in the parliament. Now, the centrist parties, it's important to remind our viewers of this, have won. The centre-right, centre-left coalition that we've seen in charge back since 2019 have retained a majority of the seats in the parliament. But it's about coalition building now, because these are obviously national parties from across the European Union building up to those super groups in the European Parliament. Now, the European People's Party, that's Ursula von der Leyen's group, and then you have the Socialists and Democrats. People like German Chancellor Olaf Scholz's party are part of that group, as well as Renew, which was President Macron's party in the European Parliament. They've taken a bit of a beating at these elections. However, it is likely, or it seems very possible at least, that those centrist parties will have to work with the far right to get some legislation through that European Parliament. Now, on what can they cooperate is going to be the big question. Ursula von der Leyen making it clear, we will work with you if you are pro-European, pro-Ukraine or pro-rule of law. That could allow for a space where cooperation on support for Ukraine is a non-negotiable, but maybe a toughening of migration laws or an easing of green regulation could be seen in the next few years here in the European Union. But a lot of negotiating next here in Brussels.
Now, the decision to dissolve the French Parliament by Emmanuel Macron, what's been the reaction? Many questions asked, of course, was this a wise move?
Well, the first thing to say is that it was completely unexpected, even though there had been weeks and weeks, if not months, of the French far-right national rally, Rassemblement National, led by Marine Le Pen, was leading in the polls for a very long time, but there was no sign that this was coming. Even activists of Renew, Emmanuel Macron's European party, were saying, no, he won't do this even if we have a terrible night. Now, the possibilities as to why he did it are varied. One theory could be that at the legislative elections, the national elections in France, there will be higher turnout. There has been progressively higher turnout every time they've had legislative elections. And perhaps he is trying to reconsolidate a centrist group of parties in France to keep the far right at bay. But as you rightly said, with the far right doing as well as they did in the European elections, getting more than double what Emmanuel Macron's party got in those elections, there's a very high risk that he could lose. But at the moment, there is already parliamentary gridlock in France for the French government, Emmanuel Macron's government, to be able to get anything through that parliament. They have to strike deals on a case-by-case basis with every law. So perhaps it's a bit of a Hail Mary, it's a bit of a gamble, but he hopes to break that parliamentary deadlock and have a broader centrist coalition for France going forward.
Alex, let's look at, what next for Belgium just in the coming days. We know, of course, that the Prime Minister of Belgium has also resigned, but of course, Alexander De Croo will remain a caretaker Prime Minister until a new coalition, we understand. Just talk us through that.
Well, this is endlessly interesting, but endlessly complicated because it's Belgian politics. Now, there was an expectation that the country was going to move to the right, but it didn't go as far right as was initially expected. Vlaams Belang, which is the nationalist Flemish party in the northern Dutch-speaking part of the country, were expected really to do very well, and they didn't do quite so well. They came second in the federal elections, tied for first in the Flemish parliamentary elections as well. The centre-right parties led by Bart de Wever, who's the mayor of Antwerp at the moment, did much better than expected. Now, the progressive centre-left parties did not do very well, and that's why Alexander De Croo is out. But certainly this was an election where the future of Belgium could have been at play, because Vlaams Belang, that nationalist party, wanted the separation of Flanders and Wallonia, wanted the separation of Belgium as we know it today. They have not won this election, so Belgium will continue in its current form, but a very close-fought race, those centre-right parties just pipping the far right here in Belgium.